Today, we discuss the great New York goalie debate. Who's better, the Islanders' Ilya Sorokin or the Rangers' Igor Shesterkin? Plus some questions about the Islanders' lineup for this season. And a former Islander goalie retires. We've got all that and more on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
You're Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome, everybody, to the Friday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you can get new episodes as soon as they drop. We are also now available on SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just do a search for Locked On Islanders. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. We have got a lot to discuss on today's show. But first, if you've got something Islanders related on your mind, if you have a question for us, a comment about something we've talked about on the show, or maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, feel free to send us an email. The email address, lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention your name on the show when we discuss whatever's on your mind. You could also follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Isles, and you could follow me, Gil Martin, on Twitter at Ice Wars, NYR_VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders. Training camp just a week or two away, and we will have everything. Still waiting on some news from Zach Parise and possibly Tomas Tatar. We will have any and all Islanders news for you between now and, well, hey, all season long. That's what we do here on Locked On Islanders. We're going to start with a big debate, and I guess the question is, who's the better goalie, Ilya Sorokin of the New York Islanders or Igor Shesterkin of the Rangers? And, you know, these two are friends dating back to Russia. They're both Russian goaltenders playing in New York, both considered among the better goalies in the National Hockey League. They are friends off the ice, have been since at least their time in the KHL. Heck, they've even been seen during this offseason training together. And yet the question becomes, which one of them is the better goalie? And look, right now, I know I'm biased, obviously, covering the Islanders and watching them game in and game out. But to me, I mean, I don't think there's any doubt, at least this past season, that the Islanders' Sorokin has an edge over Shesterkin. Let's start with the numbers. And look, Sorokin is 28, just turned 28 last month. Shesterkin is 27. He will turn 28 right before New Year's. His birthday is December 30th. So these guys are literally about 4 months apart in age. Both of them, again, as I said, Russians, both of them playing in New York. But look, last year, the numbers definitely favor Sorokin. He had a .924 save percentage, while Shesterkin had a save percentage of .916. The goals against average for Sorokin, 2.34. For Shesterkin, 2.48. So a 0.14 difference. Shutouts, 6 for Sorokin, only 3 for Shesterkin. And again, I think the edge going to the Islander netminder. If you go straight wins, there is where there is an edge for Shesterkin. Shesterkin won 37 games last year, only lost 13, and had 8 overtime losses while playing for the Islanders, a team that is certainly more offensively challenged. Sorokin had a 31-22-7 record. So 6 fewer wins and basically only 2 more starts for Sorokin. If you were to ask voters who voted for the Vezina Trophy, again, Sorokin getting the edge. He was one of the 3 finalists for the Vezina, which goes to the best goalie. He had 24 people voting for him, had 3 first-place votes, 17 second-place votes, and 4 third-place votes. That is an outstanding performance. It gave him a total of 70 votes on this category. The other 2 finalists, Linus Ullmark of Boston, who won the award going away, and Connor Hellebuck of Winnipeg, who finished well behind Sorokin. Sorokin, again, getting 70 points in the voting. Hellebuck getting 32. Igor Shesterkin was 8th on this list, getting 2 third-place votes, which gives him 2 points for this voting. And interestingly enough, they also vote for postseason all-star voting. And again, it was Sorokin finishing 2nd, just as he did in the Vezina voting, was also 9th in the voting for the Hart Trophy as the player most valuable to his team. In the all-star voting, also 8th was Igor Shesterkin. And look, I'll start with this. I would be happy to have either one of these goalies on my team. And I think you can win a Stanley Cup with either goalie. I know Sorokin has already won a title in the KHL, proved himself to be an excellent clutch goalie when he was playing in Russia. But the question now becomes, right now, the 2 of them going to be 28, both of them by the end of this calendar year. Who would you prefer? To me, Sorokin is just a little more consistent than Shesterkin. I think he has fewer games where he's just not there. And we've seen Shesterkin have, more than a handful of games where he just doesn't seem to have it. I think you can count the number of truly bad games where Sorokin didn't keep the Islanders in it on the fingers of one hand. And I think when you add the fact that the Islanders just don't score a heck of a lot of goals, I think that sort of plays into that a little bit more as to why I think Sorokin deserves it. I mean, last year, the Rangers were 12th in the league in goals scored with 277. The Islanders, as a team, scored 243 or 34 fewer goals. They were 23rd out of 32 teams. In the goals against category, the Islanders ranking 5th in the league in that category, while the New York Rangers ultimately ranking 4th. So I think the Rangers, gave up a few fewer goals, not by much, but boy, a lot more goal support. And what that goal support does realistically is it gives a lot more of a cushion to Igor Shesterkin. And, Shesterkin knows if he makes a mistake, his team, which is in the top half of the league in goals scored, can bail him out, that they can score 3, 4 goals in a game more often than not. Whereas Sorokin knows if he gives up more than 2 goals in a game, it is most likely a 1 point at best, an overtime or shootout loss at best. And, most likely a loss in regulation. So overall, I would take either goalie, but to me, I think Sorokin just has an edge. The shooting save percentage and the goals against average, both better. The team in front of him, not as good overall as the Rangers last year. To me, I give the edge to the Islanders, Ilya Sorokin. But like I said, I would happily, if I was NHL GM starting a team, I think I could win a Stanley Cup with either of these players. We have got more to discuss on today's show. We're going to talk a little bit about the Islanders lineup, where the holes are, where the openings may be. Plus, we'll have our Islanders birthday of the day, an enforcer in the late 90s who was with the Islanders for parts of 3 seasons. See if you can guess who that is. And of course, we'll talk about a former Islander goalie hanging up his skates. We've got all that and a lot more still to come on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is about to kick off, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to win all season long. Because right now, when you bet on a Super Bowl winner, you can get bonus bets every time they win in the regular season. Just pick any team to win the Super Bowl, and you'll get bonus bets for every victory. And you can use those bonus bets on the point spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. Hey, Giant fan, they made the playoffs last year, going for back-to-back appearances. The Jets have added Aaron Rodgers. A lot of excitement there. No matter which team you root for, place a bet for them to win the Super Bowl. Get bonus bets every time they win in the regular season. All you got to do is visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and start earning bonus bets with America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. So, the Islanders lineup right now. The amazing thing about this lineup, in all honesty, is that there really aren't a lot of openings. Now, there can be, but there really aren't a lot. And I look at it, and to me, I think you have 2 lines that Lane Lambert more or less wants to keep consistent. The first one is the identity line. Casey Cizikas, Matt Martin, Cal Clutterbuck. Now, injuries have been an issue, especially with Clutterbuck in recent years. You got to hope that he's healthy and able to play, and you certainly have some other options. But right now, that seems to be the 4th line. I think you have Brock Nelson, Pierre Engvall, and Kyle Palmieri is a group that, again, I think Lane Lambert prefers to keep together, but I think they're a lot less etched in stone. And then I think you have a duo of Bo Horvat and Matthew Barzal, who the Islanders want to keep together, with Barzy now moving to the right wing. The big questions to me: who is the first line left wing? You've got a lot of possibilities. Last year, it was Anders Lee. Everydayers, I believe that having Lee and Horvat on the same line, that their styles are just a little too similar to each other's, and they don't complement each other well. That's not to say that they can't both be very effective players, but I think that stylistically, they're not a good fit as line mates. So you still have Lee as a possibility. You have Oliver Wahlstrom. You can also move Pierre Engvall up. And then I guess you have those possibilities with some of those younger players. The Matthew Maggios, the William Dufours, the Ruslan Ishkovs. I don't think these guys make the team out of training camp, but I think it remains possible that they get a look at least in one or two exhibition games, on that top line to see what they could do. Barring trades, I think you see J.G. Pageau and Hudson Fasching on the third line. And then the question becomes, who's the left wing on that third line? Do you go with Wahlstrom? Do you go with Lee? Do you go with Engvall? Is Julien Gauthier a possibility if he has a strong camp, or Carlson Kuhlman? Maybe Ross Johnston battles, although I don't think he starts the season on the team. We talked about some of the younger players. I might even throw in Arnaud Durando, who I think might be a very good bottom six forward under the right circumstances. So again, that's kind of where you're looking at and where the lineup questions are, with camp just about a week plus away. But defensively, I think your top four is set. Now, again, the pairings may not be, but you have Adam Pelech and Ryan Polak as your best two defensive defensemen. You've got Noah Dobson as your offensive guy. You got Alexander Romanov as more of a physical, stay-at-home kind of a guy. On the right side, you then have Scott Mayfield, and then the big question is, who is partnering with Mayfield? Do you once again go with Sebastian Aho, who has his limitations defensively, but had his best season in the league last year? Or is 22-year-old Samuel Bolduc ready for prime time and going to be able to step in and win that job? I think those are the big questions coming into training camp. And then again, defensively, Robin Salo still on this lineup, on this roster. Paul Ledoux played a game or two with the Islanders. Dennis Cholowski also can fill in. Grant Hutton, a right-handed shot. I think if a right-handed defenseman gets hurt, it's either Hutton or Ledoux who would probably get the call up. If not, a left-handed defenseman and they need a call up, you've got Salo, you've got Cholowski. But overall, I think the battle for that sixth spot in the lineup every game is going to be between Bolduc and Aho. And I think the Islanders would prefer to have Bolduc win this long term. I think if Aho wins it, they view him more as a stopgap kind of a guy who could fill in for another year, maybe two if necessary. But, this is the last year of Aho's contract, and I wouldn't be surprised if, barring another big step forward, that he is no longer an Islander after this year, or that he's the seventh defenseman after this year. I think Bolduc is more in the team's long-term plans. They like his size. They like his potential as sort of a middle six, two-way kind of a defenseman. Start out on the third pair, eventually get to the second pairing. But the question with Bolduc, is he ready? We saw him in the regular season look pretty good, and then in the playoffs, he just didn't have enough at that point to take that next step forward and deal with the faster, more intense style of play that we see in the postseason. Again, who wins that job is one of the big openings on the team. The goaltending, barring injury, I think it's etched in stone. Sorokin, your starter. Varlamov is your backup. By the way, I know we were talking about the rookie showcase on Wednesday's show. There was no game being played. This was really mostly a photo opportunity for Upper Deck, who was taking photos of all the players. And by the way, if you're interested, William Dufour wearing number 56. Now, remember, He wore number 14 when he was called up. That number has since been taken by Bo Horvat. So now wearing number 56 at that rookie showcase. Did his interviews, had his photos taken, looked good, but again, no game to report on there for William Dufour or for anyone else for that matter. We have got more to get to on today's show. We're going to talk about a former Islanders goalie who just announced his retirement from pro hockey, plus our Islanders birthday of the day. All that and more still to come on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. So an announcement made here, and a former Islander goalie retiring from pro hockey. That goalie, Kevin Poulin, originally drafted by the Isles in the 5th round back in 2008. He's 33 years old, a Montreal native, made his NHL debut with the Isles in 2010-2011, filling in for 10 games. Played in 28 games in 2013-2014. That was his most games played at the NHL level, and really only played for the Islanders in the NHL. After that, played in the AHL, the KHL, Austria, Switzerland, Germany, back to the AHL, Sweden, the ECHL, and played the last 2 years with the Laval Rocket of the AHL. In 50 games in the NHL, all with the Islanders, he had 1 assist and a 3.07 goals against average, a record of 18-25-3, and an 899 save percentage. Never really developed into more than a backup goalie at the NHL level and a sort of a guy who they would call up when injuries hit. And in the AHL, eventually, he started a couple of years at Bridgeport, had maybe some of his better years there, thinking about 2014, 2015, when he had a 2.87 goals against average in 45 games. But then, again, was just sort of a journeyman minor league / European player. But Poulin hanging up his skates. He is done with his pro hockey career, and we most certainly wish him all the best going forward as he begins the next phase of his life. But basically, Kevin Poulin announcing his retirement. And look, injuries definitely played a part in, his career being sort of derailed. During warm-ups at the age of 20, had his skate caught in a rut, caused a dislocated kneecap, and that certainly slowed his progress. Did make a couple of brief appearances in a couple of playoff games, 52 total minutes there. Only let in 1 goal in those 2 playoff games back in 2013 against the Pittsburgh Penguins. But again, 250 career AHL games, a 281 goals against average, and a 910 save percentage. A winning goalie in the AHL, 115, 97, and 32, at least a winning goalie by, AHL standards, even though those 32 games are overtime losses or shootout losses. But again, that's not the way that professional hockey at this level tends to look at it. But again, best of luck to Kevin Poulin as he announces his retirement from pro hockey. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day. And, yesterday, Thursday, would have been the 53rd birthday of former Islanders winger and enforcer Gino Ojic. He unfortunately passed away back in January 15th, at the age of 52. Ojic, 6'3", 215 pounds, drafted in the 5th round by the Vancouver Canucks back in 1990, was a member of the 94 Canucks team that went all the way to the Stanley Cup final, played in 10 playoff games for them that year. Look, let's face it, Ojic was primarily an enforcer. He did score 16 goals in 76 games in 93-94, but that was the only time he hit double digits in a season in goals in the NHL. And, those penalty minute numbers, 296 in 45 games in 90-91, 348 in 91-92 in 65 games, 370 in 75 games in 92-93, and then a career high 371 in 70 games with Vancouver in 96-97. With the Islanders, he went over 100 penalty minutes in just 23 games in 1998-99, scored 4 goals and added 3 assists, 5 goals and 10 assists in 46 games. In 1999-2000, added 90 penalty minutes, then was dealt to the Philadelphia Flyers, later played for the Canadiens in 605 career NHL games, 64 goals, 137 points, and 2,567 penalty minutes, add 4 goals and an assist in 44 playoff games, and of course, another 142 penalty minutes. His best moment as an Islander, well, one of them certainly came on October 14th, 1998, road game at the Ice Palace in Tampa. Islanders and Lightning. Tommy Salo against Darren Pupa for Tampa Bay. And the Islanders get on the board first on a goal by our Islanders' birthday of the day, Gino Ojic, Rob Reichel, and Mariusz Tchaikovsky with the assist. A shorthanded goal in the third period by Claude Lapointe clinched it, and the Islanders win it 2-0. Game-winning goal for Gino Ojic in this one. And he had it on 2 shots, played 13 minutes and 17 seconds in the game. A 22-save shutout for Tommy Salo in this one as the Islanders won 2-0. So, Ojic unfortunately dealt with a lot of illnesses after his career was over. He is no longer with us, but he is well thought of and remembered, and he is our Islanders' birthday of the day. Thanks for making Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Everydayers will be back on Monday, hopefully with some new news about either Zach Parise or Tomas Tatar. Also, we will bring you start to preview training camp a little bit as it is getting close. And next Wednesday, we'll have a special crossover episode with Trey Matthews of Locked On Devils as we get ready for both teams' regular season. Until then, have a great day, everybody, a great weekend. Stay safe. And of course, let's go Islanders.